wonder we look ridiculous. No longer we cannot resolve Brexit. No wonder we cannot have a budget to promote our economy. No wonder we cannot govern with aplomb in the interest of the British people. If this House cannot do better, then I think the Prime Minister is right, that it must dissolve and ask the people to choose a better Parliament. Either we need to be a better Parliament or they need to choose a better Parliament as soon as possible.
Mr. Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I begin by thanking the European Union for granting the extension that this Parliament asked for under the Benn Act. We are not leaving Europe on the 31st of October, as the Prime Minister told the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom that we would be doing. The Conservative Party and the Prime Minister defeated, Mr. Speaker, once again. Mr. Speaker, a general election on the terms offered by the Prime Minister are not and will not ever be acceptable to the Scottish National Party. But doing nothing is not an option. The impasse cannot remain forever. We in these benches do want an election, but not with the hand that the Prime Minister is delivering. Because let's be clear what the Prime Minister promises. He proposes to bring back his bad withdrawal deal. He knows that some Labour MPs will help him pass that bill. And then he would have us leave the European Union at the end of November before a general election. For Scotland, that would mean we'd been taken out of the European Union against our will. We will never vote for such a proposition. It would give the Prime Minister a post-Brexit election. And that is simply something that we will not sign up to.
Absolutely.
Mr. Speaker, at the weekend, myself and the leader of the Liberal Democrats wrote to Donald Tusk seeking a meaningful extension to Article 50 that would remove the risk of no deal and give us time. The continuation of the flextension, where the UK can leave at the end of any month in which it passes the motion, is not the complete safety and security we want, but demonstrates precisely why. If we enable this motion to pass, we will be out before the Prime Minister's election. We cannot allow the Prime Minister to railroad through this disastrous so-called deal. A deal that opens the door to a hard Brexit with us outside the single market and outside the customs union. A deal that would end freedom of movement, seeing Scotland's working population decline. That's what the Conservatives offer to the people of Scotland. The people of Scotland have made it very clear, because we voted 62% to remain in the European Union. Mr. Speaker, where is the respect to the people of Scotland and to our Parliament? A deal, after all, that leaves Scotland at a disadvantage to Northern Ireland. A deal that will not have the consent of the Scottish Parliament. And let me tell the Prime Minister that that consent is required, despite what he said at Prime Minister's questions last week. And he must respect that must be respect towards the Scottish Parliament. A deal, of course, that would cost each person in Scotland the equivalent of £1,600 compared with EU membership, and even more if no trade agreement can be reached. So today, SNP MPs will not be supporting the Prime Minister in his motion. We will not be bullied by this Prime Minister. We will not play his games. And we know what he doesn't want. He doesn't want to face the electorate having missed his October the 31st deadline. He has not delivered Brexit, and the people know that the Prime Minister has failed. In his own words, Mr. Speaker, it is time for the Prime Minister to look for the nearest ditch. So we will support the Liberal Democrat proposal for an election before Brexit can happen, with no reintroduction of the withdrawal agreement bill. Because given the way that some Labour MPs voted, we cannot trust Labour to block the bill in future. It's not an issue of 3 days between election dates. It's an issue of whether we are in the European Union or out of it. That is fundamental. We are ready for an election, but it must be on those terms, not ever on the Prime Minister's terms. And, Mr. Speaker, in that election, we want to see votes for 16 and 17-year-olds and for EU nationals. And when the We will fight the Tories on Brexit, on the rate clause, on austerity, on the harm they have done to people's lives, on livelihoods, and yes, we will fight them on the right of Scotland to choose our own future rather than being dragged through this Westminster mess ever again.
I'm very grateful to the leader of the SNP for giving way. Does that mean that if the Prime Minister were to introduce a bill tomorrow, for example, a one-line bill in order to engineer a general election, that, after what he said, that he would not be supporting that proposition?
What I would say to the Labour Party, that the Liberal Democrats and ourselves have put forward a bill that leaves us in control of the process, that allows us to set the date for the election. And I appeal to Labour MPs to come with us, because this is about leadership, Mr Speaker. It is about the opposition parties coming together and taking the keys of number 10 Downing Street away from a Prime Minister that we can't trust. So my message to the Labour Party is, let's face an election. Let's do it on our terms. Let's make sure that we take the Prime Minister and his toxic Tory government out of office. We can do it. We can do it if the opposition unite together, and we can stop the deal that the Prime Minister wants to drive through. It's in the hands of the Labour Party to join us and the Liberal Democrats, to have courage, to stand up against the Prime Minister. But what are we going to find? We find that the Labour Party want to sit on their hands. Sit in their hands, Mr Speaker, and wait for this government to deliver a Brexit. I say to the Labour Party, don't be the handmaidens of the Prime Minister's Brexit. Let's put this back to the people now by coming together. You know, it used to be said, it was said by Oliver Brown, a well-known Scottish nationalist, that he shiver ran along the Labour front bench looking for a spine to crawl up. Well, Mr Speaker, the shiver's still looking for that spine. Mr Speaker, the Scottish National Party are standing up for Scotland, standing up against Brexit and this Tory government. The Scottish National Party has fought tirelessly alongside others in this House to prevent Brexit, to secure the right to revoke Article 50, to stop no deal and to limit the damage. We have delivered the votes day in and day out, but we have to be realistic and we have to be honest with the public. We have repeatedly voted for a referendum with Remain on the ballot paper, but regrettably there is no evidence that the majority exists in this House for a people's vote. And the Leader of the Opposition and the Shadow Chancellor are acutely aware that if the bill comes back, that some of their MPs will back it, that the bill will become law and Brexit will happen. So the question for the Labour Party is, can they get their act together? Do they actually want to stop this Prime Minister? Do they want to stop Brexit? Or do they agree that it should be imposed on Scotland against our will? Doing nothing means that this Prime Minister stays in power. It means he gets Brexit done on his terms, in his party's interests, not on all our national interests. I will give way.
I'm supremely grateful to the right honourable gentleman. I just want to go back to clarify something he said earlier. He talked about his link-up with the Liberal Democrats, about wanting to have an election at a different date in December, and then he went on to say that that would be conditional on 16-year-olds being on the ballot paper and European Union citizens. Can I just ask him this simple question? If there is no time to put them on, does he still back the idea of an election in early December?
I would simply say, Mr Speaker, it is the right thing to do. That our young people have a right to have a say on their future, as it is for EU nationals. That is the principal position that we have long taken, and I'm proud that my colleagues in government in Scotland have made sure, when it comes to our Scottish election, that our young people and our EU citizens are given their rights. Now, we want to see this happen here, but I understand the circumstances that we're in, that we need to make sure that an election happens on our terms. That is the priority. It is the priority that we make sure that we legislate in future that our young people, that our EU nationals are given due respect. The priority that we face in the short term is to make sure that we come together, that we can stop this damaging Brexit that the Prime Minister wants to put through. I'll give one last time, I'll give way, then
I thank the Right Gentleman for giving way. I listened carefully to what he said about 16 and 17-year-olds. I certainly would be bringing an amendment to any bill like that, and I was very interested to hear what he said, because that's what we now have the pleasure of having in Wales. He also mentioned EU voters, but would he also agree there's an issue with overseas voters, many of whom were excluded in previous elections, and also, of course, crucial issues around spending on advertising on social media that would need to be addressed before we can be clear that any election could go forward in a safe and democratic way?
The honourable gentleman is raising issues which have been aired in this House, which he knows that we support him on. But the fact of the matter is that we are in a constitutional crisis. And I ask this House to reflect on one thing. We've been granted an extension by the European Union till the end of January. It is emboldened on all of us that we have got to end this crisis. Time is of the essence. And if we act now in all our national interests, without playing the games that the Conservatives want to, we can have that election. We can put it back to the people. And I certainly want the people in Scotland to have their say on that. And crucially, Mr. Speaker, to recognise that if we want to protect our interests in Scotland, that it does mean that we should not and cannot be ripped out of the European Union against our will. And, Mr. Speaker, that means that Scotland has to complete that journey that we began with devolution 20 years ago and become an independent member of the European Union. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the SNP... Well, there we are. There's the message to the people of Scotland. Sit down and shut up. That's what we get from the Conservatives. That was absolutely loud and clear, and it comes over time and time again. I will say to you this, that people at home are watching this. They can see the disrespect that's shown. And the day where this union comes to an end is fast approaching, Mr. Speaker. The SNP will never, not ever, vote for Brexit. We cannot and will not trust this Prime Minister. The Scottish National Party does not want to leave this Prime Minister with time in Parliament to do anything other than dissolve it. So we will not vote with the government tonight. But make no mistake, the Scottish National Party are ready to give people back their say, to stop this Tory government, to stop Brexit, and to demand the right to choose Scotland's future as an independent country. Mr. Speaker, our destiny.
William Cash. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The situation is very simple. The bottom line is this, that the Labour Party is scared...
The Honourable Gentleman, the Member for Stone, the Chair of the European Scrutiny Committee, a member who served without interruption in this House for the last 35 years, must and will be heard. Sir William Cash.
As I said, the real question, the bottom line is this. I heard the Right Honourable Gentleman just now talking about disrespect. I heard the Leader of the Opposition talking about trust. What those who are either abstaining or voting against this motion are doing is utterly disrespectful to their own constituents, is utterly disrespectful to our democratic system. They are not trusting the people. They are not removing the uncertainty. They are not allowing the British people the democratic right that they have to choose the members of Parliament in individual constituencies that they wish to elect. That is a denial of democracy. That is what the Leader of the Opposition and the Right Honourable Gentleman who's just spoken are doing. It is completely and totally unacceptable, whether they are Remainers or whether they are Leavers. The democratic right of the British people is to have a general election in the situation that we are in now. Yes, certainly we should be supporting leaving the European Union. But for those who are Remainers, they too have the right to vote, and that is being denied to them by the Leader of the Opposition and by every single Labour Member of Parliament and others who are either abstaining or who are voting against this motion today. It is a total denial of democracy. And when it comes to the general election, I trust that the people who know why they've been denied it vote against those members of Parliament to make sure that they themselves see the damage that they've done to our democratic system.
Jay Swinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Democrats want to stop Brexit. I appreciate that there are different views on different sides of the House on that matter, but I hope people will appreciate that at least the Liberal Democrats have been consistent on wanting to stop Brexit throughout this process. Now, we believe... I will make some progress and I will give way. We believe the best way to do this is to put a specific Brexit deal to the public for a final say in a people's vote. We have been leading the campaign for a people's vote for 3.5 years. We stood in the 2017 election in a manifesto that argued for a people's vote. And 17 times in this House we have laid amendments for a people's vote, including last week an amendment to the Queen's speech. And the opposition, the official opposition, have refused to back wholeheartedly a people's vote. And in fact, 19 Labour MPs voted for the Prime Minister's deal last week. So when it comes to the cause of remaining in the EU and of stopping Brexit, the Labour Party have not delivered. We have put our best efforts in, but so far the House has not yet backed those in sufficient numbers.
Would you give way?
I will give way to the honourable gentleman.
I'm very grateful. Actually, not all of our MPs have always been so unequivocal on this, because the Honourable Member for Streatham voted in favour of Article 50, although he never tells the House that, when I voted against it. But can I just ask her why she believes, using an electoral system which her party, and indeed I have, her party has always thought does not deliver a fair result, i.e. through a general election, to solve this issue, rather than sticking to the point that we should be seeking a referendum on this issue. Otherwise, she could end up delivering a hard Brexit on only 38% of the vote, not 51% of the vote.
Well, I will always welcome any converts to the cause of electoral reform, or indeed long-standing supporters. This is an issue where we are looking for the best way to protect our constituents and to protect our place in the European Union. But MPs should not kid themselves that by hanging on that there is somehow going to be a different outcome. Because the reality, I'm responding to the previous question, because the reality of the situation is this. We have secured an extension to Article 50 to the 31st of January. It was not automatic, it was not guaranteed, and it was not given by return of email. It was deliberated over, it was agonised over by our EU friends, and certain members of the EU were pushing very hard for there to be a very short extension of Article 50, and they said very clearly that there needed to be a clear purpose for Article 50. So if the House of Commons can make it clear that the purpose would be to have a people's vote, I would be delighted. We have been campaigning for this for 3.5 years, and this afternoon I have tabled at the table office an early day motion calling again for a people's vote. So if MPs really want to demonstrate that the numbers are now there, Go to the table office and sign it. But don't give me wishful thinking that the numbers are there when the real risk is we could crash out on the 31st of January instead of the 31st of October, and that is no better. I'll give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. If the election goes ahead and she is successful in stopping Brexit, would she share government with the Leader of the Opposition? Because I don't see how else it would work.
I've been very clear that I do not believe the Leader of the Opposition or the Prime Minister are the right people to be in our government and to be leading the country. I've been very clear about that, and I'll be crystal clear about that. And in a general election, I will go to the country and make my case that we should have a Liberal Democrat government. And a Liberal Democrat government would revoke Article 50 on day one, and that is the best way to stop Brexit. We need to see the path forward, and if it is not
Wir schauen jetzt mal schnell nach Berlin zu meinem Kollegen Gerd Joachim von Valois. Also das war eine herbe Klatsche für die CDU da gestern in Thüringen. Gerd, wie viel Feuer ist denn unter dem Stuhl von Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer am Montag danach?
Ja, das werden wir vielleicht heute Mittag wissen. Jedenfalls ist die Situation ungemütlich auch für die CDU geworden, auch für die CDU-Vorsitzende. Und man ist auch ein bisschen ratlos. Seit gestern gelten Grundsätze nicht mehr. Es gibt keine Mehrheit in der politischen Mitte. Es gibt einen Landesverband, der verliert 12 Prozentpunkte. Und es hat noch nicht einen Politiker hier der CDU gegeben, der den Rücktritt des dortigen Vorsitzenden Mike Moring verlangt hat. Alles dieses wäre vor wenigen Jahren noch unmöglich gewesen. Wir haben ganz andere Zeiten. Und ich frage mal Carsten Linnemann, den Vorsitzenden der Mittelstandsvereinigung der CDU-CSU. Fangen wir mal gleich von vorne an. Wer ist verantwortlich? Wer muss die Konsequenzen ziehen?
Wir sind alle verantwortlich. Nur Konsequenzen kann man erst dann ziehen, wenn es auch mal endlich eine richtige Analyse gibt. Diese Analyse fand meines Erachtens seit Jahren nicht richtig statt. Meine Partei zeigt zu wenig Haltung, zeigt sehr stark Beliebigkeit, thematisch. Und mittlerweile habe ich das Gefühl, auch Beliebigkeit in Sachen Konstellation mit anderen Parteien. Stichwort, öffnen wir uns jetzt einer Koalition mit den Linken. Das wäre wirklich Anfang vom Ende der CDU. Ich würde sogar sagen, als Volkspartei das Ende, wenn wir da mitmachen würden. Und deswegen bin ich gespannt jetzt auf die Bundesvorstandssitzungen. Da müssen wir die Sachen jetzt ungeschminkt ansprechen. Ansonsten werden wir hier wieder in 2-3 Monaten bei der nächsten Wahl stehen und uns die Frage stellen, was haben wir falsch gemacht.
Klare Ansage zu der Frage, wie es weitergeht in Thüringen und auch klare Ansage im ersten Teil Ihrer Antwort, die übersetze ich mal. Man hat all die Jahre viel zu viel Rücksicht genommen auf die Position eines Koalitionspartners, der gerade wieder mit sich selbst beschäftigt ist, Findung des Vorsitzenden. Bei der Grundrente zum Beispiel zeichnet sich ja ab, dass der eine oder andere Spitzenpolitiker der CDU gewillt ist, zu sagen, na ja, dann kommen wir eben Hubertus Heil entgegen. Da hat ja nun Armin Laschet, sehr ungewöhnlicher Vorgang, vorgestern dazu was gesagt und gesagt, so geht es nicht. Wie wird das mit der Grundrente? Am Schluss ist es so, dass die CDU auch da nachgeben wird.
Das darf sie nicht. Ich persönlich werde da nicht nachgeben. Ich habe selbst, wenn ich das vorsichtig sagen darf, mit Frau Nahles diese Grundrente, die im Koalitionsvertrag steht, verhandelt. Punkt. Und genauso haben wir mit der SPD verhandelt über die Frage des Soli. Da haben wir uns nicht durchsetzen können als Union. Da wollten wir den Soli komplett abschaffen. Aber wir haben jetzt gesagt, okay, die komplette Abschaffung steht nicht im Koalitionsvertrag. Jetzt machen wir erstmal nur das, was im Koalitionsvertrag steht. Und das erwarte ich auch von der SPD. Wir sind koalitionstreu. Die Grundrente, die im Koalitionsvertrag steht, um es auf den Punkt zu bringen, die hätten wir schon seit einem Jahr. Wir müssen es nur umsetzen. Und meine Partei muss in der Frage hart bleiben. Wir dürfen nicht unsere Überzeugung über Bord werfen, nur weil die SPD eine Frage zu klären hat auf ihrem Parteitag, nämlich die Frage, wie geht es weiter mit der GroKo? Ich wünsche der SPD wirklich, das ist auch meine volle Überzeugung, alles Gute. Wir brauchen 2 große Volksparteien. Wir sehen ja, was passiert, wenn eine SPD schrumpft, eine CDU schrumpft. Jetzt bei den Wahlen in Thüringen. Wir brauchen in Deutschland 2 große Volksparteien. Aber bitte nicht auf unsere Kosten. Die SPD muss schon selber einen Plan haben, wie sie da rauskommt.
Abschließende Frage. Also die Parteiführung ist zu großzügig, was Kompromissfindung angeht. Unter Angela Merkel haben wir das ja immer gemerkt, dass man sich in der Mitte traf. Das wird ja weiter fortgesetzt. Und viele in der CDU, auch Sie, fordern jetzt mal klare Kante. Das würde aber auch bedeuten, mit der SPD, das geht nicht weiter, Ende der GroKo.
Danach wird es ja nicht einfacher. Die Konstellation ist ja nicht so, dass wir von heute auf morgen wieder auf 40% kommen. Die FDP kommt auf 10% und wir können regieren. Ich wünsche mir das, auch wenn alle jetzt den Grünen hinterherlaufen. Ich glaube immer noch, dass eine marktwirtschaftliche Ordnung und eine Zukunftsorientierung mit Innovation wir mit der FDP am besten hinbekommen. Aber so ist die Situation nicht. Deswegen bin ich nicht naiv zu glauben, jetzt gibt es Neuwahlen und dann wird alles besser. Ich konzentriere mich jetzt erstmal auf meine Partei und mache das nicht so wie beim Fußball, dass der Gegner Schuld hat oder wahrscheinlich noch der Schiedsrichter. Wir müssen uns die Frage stellen, was haben wir in den letzten Jahren falsch gemacht? Wir waren alle in der Verantwortung, ich auch. Und ich glaube, der größte Fehler war der, dass wir ganz klar profitiert haben von der Bundeskanzlerin. Aber auf diesem Argument haben wir uns ausgeruht und haben es verpennt, die Unterschiede in der Sache zu suchen. Warum braucht es eine Union? Wofür steht die Union? Und das müssen wir jetzt wieder herausarbeiten. Das sage ich schon seit Monaten. Es muss nur jetzt auch passieren. Ich bin aber auch in der Verantwortung. Ich will mich da gar nicht rausreden. Ich werde mich jetzt auch im Bundesvorstand melden und dieses direkt ansprechen. Viele andere machen das auch. Und genau da gehört es auch hin.
Those should be introduced for elections across the House and across all different elections. But what I would say to my honourable friend is that the worst thing we could do for 16 and 17-year-olds is to crash out and to leave the European Union. And we are in a situation where there is no guarantee of an extension beyond the 31st of January. And we need to do everything we can to stop Brexit. And if that means an election to stop Brexit, to protect the rights of those 16 and 17-year-olds, we need to deliver that. Because leaving the European Union is the thing that will wreck the future of young people. I've given away plenty of times. The Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition say that they want a general election. If that is the case, and they are not just playing games, then the government will give time for the bill that we have published, and the Leader of the Opposition will ask his MP.
Kepada saya mewakili kawan-kawan untuk mencari pegangan, dan bila luput kita memukul dan mencakar. Putus subversif dan mengganggu keamanan, maka hanya ada satu kata: lawan. Hentikan kekerasan. Justice for Papua. Gerakan Indonesia memanggil kepada para elit politik bahwa rakyat Indonesia bisa bersatu. Hari ini kita menunjukkan kepada elit politik bahwa seluruh rakyat Indonesia dapat menjadi gerakan alternatif yang akan terus merongrong kekuasaan.
MPs to support it. And I relish the opportunity to take both of them on in a general election and share with the country the Liberal Democrat positive vision to stop Brexit and build a brighter future.
Steve Double.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm delighted to be able to make a short contribution to this very important debate. I will be supporting the motion tonight because it's absolutely clear to me that the only way out of this current situation is a general election. This House is in stalemate, we're in lockdown, we cannot move forward with Brexit, we cannot move forward with anything else. And that is not good for the country, it's not good for the businesses in our country who are fed up with the uncertainty and the challenges that they are facing and want to know what the way forward is, and it is not good for our democracy, the current state of this House. But there is another reason why I believe it is essential that we have an election as soon as possible, because I believe that in the eyes of many voters across this country, this House has lost all legitimacy to sit. It has lost the trust of the British people that they invested in it in 2017. And that is because, shall we start with the Liberal Democrats? I note what the Right Honourable Lady said about an election manifesto for a second referendum. And I know the Liberal Democrats only have a passing acquaintance with keeping manifesto promises, but at least half of the members of the Liberal Democrats who currently sit in this House were elected on a manifesto to respect the referendum and deliver Brexit, and they have switched parties without any reference to their constituents. Their constituents voted for an MP to represent them as a member of a party to deliver Brexit. And those constituents have had no say. They have not been consulted in the change of position that those MPs now had. I will happily give way.
My honourable friends share my concern that many young people were duped on tuition fees, and then the horse trading went on in coalition. There was no straight answer about who they would prop up in the next coalition. They are milking that 16 and 17-year-old vote because they're promising a future, one that they don't necessarily intend to deliver, like they never delivered on tuition fees. They gave it away.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for that intervention. I agree with her wholeheartedly. And I would also add that I don't believe it's the case that Liberal Democrats have always held the position of wanting a second referendum, because I distinctly remember after the referendum in 2016, Liberal Democrat after Liberal Democrat coming on the media and saying we must respect the outcome of the referendum, we must deliver this outcome. And so I don't believe it's always been their position. But what I would also say, Mr. Speaker, is that just under 600 members of this House were elected in 2017 on a clear commitment to respect the referendum and deliver Brexit. And it is a sad reflection on our democracy and on politics in this country today that as we sit tonight, as far as I can make out, there are only about 300 members of this House who are committed to that end. Over half of the MPs who were elected to deliver on the referendum have reneged on that promise since the 2017 general election. This House does not reflect any longer what people voted for in 2017. People voted for something they thought they were going to get, and as it stands right now, they're not getting what they voted for, and I'll give way.
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman giving way. When he said the sad state of democracy in our country, then when we go around the world and say United Kingdom stands for respecting democracy and rule of law, then they say to us, well, you had a referendum in your country where the majority of the people wanted to leave and your parliament will not deliver that. So quite clearly not being able to deliver on that result quite clearly shows that it weakens our position around the world for pushing for democracy.
I'm very grateful, and my honourable friend makes a very good point, of which I know he has a great deal of experience and knowledge. The eyes of the world are looking on this place and seeing if we will be true to what we said we would do, that if we would respect what the voters told us to do. And I will give way to my friends.
Grateful. He talks about members of Parliament being elected at the last election on a promise of delivering Brexit and reneging on that promise. When the withdrawal agreement bill came before its second reading, did he notice that 217 Labour MPs voted against the second reading? Had they voted for it, they could have then amended it in the way that they wished to see it going, but they actually voted to stop Brexit.
And my honourable friend again makes a very good point. And I would say to the right honourable gentleman, the Leader of the Opposition, that if he wants to take no deal off the table, there are two very simple ways to do that. Either vote for a deal, and let's secure a smooth exit from the European Union, or vote for a general election. And if he wins it, he can then take no deal off the table. And the fact that he won't support a general election, I believe, betrays the real reason why Labour won't support an election. Is because they're afraid of the British people. They're afraid of what voters will vote for. They're afraid they will lose seats and we will be in government. And so, Mr Speaker, I say I will be supporting this motion tonight because I believe, sadly, that this House has lost all legitimacy. We have lost the trust of the British people. And the only way to recover that is to have an election, for this House to be dissolved as soon as possible, to have an election and let the British people elect a parliament that they can trust to represent them.
Sammy Wilson.
Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister has claimed that anyone who does not support his demand for an early election is, first of all, trying to stop Brexit, and secondly, is running scared of the electorate. Can I say, Mr Speaker, we will not be supporting this motion tonight, but not because we are scared of the electorate. In fact, I can tell you the electorate, the Unionist electorate in Northern Ireland, are so angry, so despairing, so bewildered at the way in which the Prime Minister has broken his promises to the people of Northern Ireland that they would return 100 DUP MPs if they had the option. So we're not scared of a general election. And secondly, we are not trying to stop Brexit. In fact, we have been pilloried in this House because we have been seen to be some of the most determined people to deliver Brexit. But the Brexit that we have on offer is not a Brexit for the United Kingdom. It's a Brexit for part of the United Kingdom. It leaves Northern Ireland still within the single market. It leaves Northern Ireland still under the customs code of the EU. It means that any goods coming into Northern Ireland from GB will be subject to customs checks, to customs declarations, to tariffs. It means that when we send goods to another part of our own country, we've got to sign export declarations, all of which add costs and delays to the economy of Northern Ireland, and will put a huge imposition on small firms, thousands of small firms that currently trade freely with the rest of the United Kingdom, and suddenly will find themselves having to treat the country to which they belong as a third country when it comes to trade. And despite what the Prime Minister has said, the withdrawal agreement makes it quite clear that we will not be able to take part in trade deals which our country does with other parts of the world if they go against the protocols within the agreement. I'll give way, yes.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. Would my honourable friend agree that the issues between the additional bureaucracy for business between Northern Ireland and Great Britain and Northern Ireland is all the more stark when you look at the statistics which show that Northern Ireland trades more with Great Britain than with the Republic of Ireland, the European Union and the rest of the world put together? So to put a barrier to our biggest market by far is hugely significant for the economy of Northern Ireland.
And the number is right, and sometimes statistics can go over the top of people's heads. But let's also bear in mind that it goes totally against the promises that were made by both the former Prime Minister and the current Prime Minister, that there be no impediments of trade between our part of the United Kingdom and GB, and also that there would be no danger of the Union being imperilled. And I will give way, yes.
Will the honourable gentleman accept that this dreadful border down the Irish Sea would be avoided if the whole of the United Kingdom left the customs union and left the single market, which I think his party has always supported? But now the Prime Minister has gone back on that and abandoned that, would his party be prepared to accept the entire of the United Kingdom during the transition period, staying in the customs union and staying in the single market, leaving the whole thing to be
Party MPs to vote for the accelerated passage of the bill which would facilitate this agreement which would have such detrimental effects on Northern Ireland. We don't want to have accelerated passage. We don't want to have 24-hour scrutiny. We want to make sure that there is nothing happens in this House which enables the Prime Minister to deliver on a deal which he promised he would never ever do.
That's what he said.
And the second thing, of course, is that if he gets this general election, as he made clear to my honourable friend from North Antrim, what platform will he be standing on? What mandate will he be seeking? What strategy will he be putting forward in that election? What will be in his manifesto? That he wants to come back here with a majority to deliver the death deal to the Union in Northern Ireland. Now, that's an offer. Accelerated passage of a bill which would facilitate this agreement, and an election which the Prime Minister would use to justify breaking his promises to the people of Northern Ireland. That's an offer which we can refuse and will be quite happy to refuse. Because whilst we want to see Brexit delivered, we want to see it delivered for the whole of the United Kingdom. We want to see it delivered in the form that the Prime Minister 3 times, or well twice because he changed his mind a third time, but twice voted for in this House. And we will not be prepared to facilitate him moving.
Probably by Wednesday and Thursday, we'll see those back in play again, and that's, again, your days of concern. Wednesday and Thursday, we have to really watch for that as far as our areas of concern. Valley, same kind of idea. We'll see those red flag warnings in effect Wednesday, Thursday. So, David, Brandy, it's Wednesday, Thursday, the next event. We're still out of the woods on this one, but come Wednesday, Thursday, get ready. Another stronger wind event is on the way.
That's frightening, and it's right around the corner, so we're going to have to stay vigilant. Danny, thank you for the report, and he's going to keep us posted on the winds all afternoon. In the meantime, I'm David Ono along with Brandy Hitt. It's 11:30 right now, 11:31 on Eyewitness News, and welcome to this special edition of Eyewitness News as we continue to follow the brush fire burning near the Getty Center.
This is a live look right now, started around 1:30 this morning, and this fire has quickly scorched more than 500 acres. We're waiting to get an update from fire crews in about 30 minutes. We do know several homes have been lost. What you're seeing on your screen also right now is a spot fire that's now spreading near a golf course.
A golf course right by the Getty Center. The 405 southbound has been closed from the 101 freeway to Sunset Boulevard. It is a nightmare. It's causing a major traffic situation for morning commuters, and fire officials are also asking people to stay off of Sunset Boulevard.
Now, from what we've been able to count, we know at least 7 homes have been destroyed, possibly more. There are mandatory evacuations that remain in effect right now. We're talking about 10,000 structures when you look at how large this area is. The current zone, it remains the same as it's been the last few hours. It goes from the 405 west to Temescal Canyon now under mandatory evacuations. Mulholland is that northern border, and again, it moves all the way south to Sunset at the south border.
UCLA and Santa Monica College are among the schools canceling classes today, but there are a number of others as well. Check our website, abc7.com, for a comprehensive look at all the schools that are shut down. In the meantime, you've been watching this spot fire that is sitting next to a golf course near Getty Center. Jory Rand is in Era 7 HD, and Jory, you've been watching this. You've been watching a home nearby on fire, but what we were impressed with was the fact that you pulled a shot for us that showed the enormous amount of homes that are actually in that area and under threat right now.
Yeah, now that the smoke has cleared a little bit, things actually, despite this shot right here, seem to be calming down a little bit. We're being able to see some homes in some neighborhoods that we weren't able to see before because they were over the smoke cover. This is Mountain Gate Country Club golf course. We thought that maybe it had spotted, but if you look at the direction of the wind, it's traveling to the south, and this is at the northernmost end of this fire. I think it just kind of crept along the 405 freeway and wound up burning up this hill and is now threatening this golf course. Hopefully the fairways themselves can act as a bit of a fire break. As we pan to the right, you see Mount St. Mary's there right at the top of the hill. Every hillside around the campus of Mount St. Mary's is burned, but the campus itself looks like it's in really good shape. So great work there by the firefighters who are able to contain that to the hillsides and not the buildings itself. As we pan further to the right, we'll bring it back to to Tiger Tail, and that's one of the few spots that's still burning. But you look, this is a shot that we weren't able to see over the last hour because there was so much smoke and so many things burning. This is the home that Josh Haskell has been reporting from on Tiger Tail. It looks like the winds picked up and it picked back the flames back up. If we can, I'm not sure if we can zoom in anymore, but we saw a really heavy water attack. We have some hose lines in the back of the house and on the side closest to us. So the near side of the home, there were 2 hose lines putting this down, and the smoke, and now it looks like it's moved around maybe to the front of the house, but this is calmed down significantly as well. So things looking pretty good from our vantage point here. Looking down on this fire, there are a couple spots that still seem to be burning. If we continue to pan back a little bit to the right, I'm sorry, Kyle, back to the right, there are a little spots down there. This is down at the near Tumbleweed Day Camp, the Crestwood Hills Park area. There are some homes, and it looks like a couple billows of smoke. We will be keeping an eye on this home at the bottom of the screen with this pool. You see the hillside to the left smoldering? That was on fire about an hour ago, maybe a little more, 90 minutes. And you see the engines lining the street here. They did a great job saturating this hillside, stopping the forward progress of this home before it reached any of the homes. And so that looks like it was saved. At the top of the hill to the left, I think that is Tiger Tail, or an extension off of it. There are some cul-de-sacs that reach off the end of Tiger Tail. And this home right here was in danger. At the bottom of the screen, it was able to be saved. It appears like it was saved, but it looks like it got really close to some of these homes on Tiger Tail. Look at just how close the charred hillside to the left is to what I believe would be the back of that home. Just came so close. There are so many homes around here that were put at risk. And just to let you know, I think, is that the DC-10 making its way through? I think the DC-10 has arrived on scene and maybe making a pass at some point. It looks too high to make a drop right now at Fast Check. They've been cycling around, kind of coming back over Century City and coming back around and hitting the backside of this fire. Again, we're expecting the winds to shift back to the north, and there is so much just empty wilderness on these hillsides. There's so much fuel to burn that we expect, if it does turn, they don't want it to reach that and make its way back up towards the Sepulveda Pass and homes up in that direction. Water drops continue. Phos-Check, fire retardant drops continue. I want to stay with us if we can, because I think it's the DC-10 is going to cycle around. It's the 737, so great, even more. We know that the DC-10 carries about 12,000 gallons of fire retardant. The 747 carries 19,000. So you're talking somewhere in that range, in between 12 and 19,000 gallons of Phos-Check. But as we wait for this tanker to come through, we can see the Getty looks like it was put at risk at some point as the water drops continue. But like I said, things look pretty good. I don't see a ton of smoke, just those 2 areas. One home on Tiger Tail that continues to burn, and then that other area off the extension off Tiger Tail. Other than that, I think this thing is dying down and dying down pretty quick, guys.
Which is so great to see, unfortunately, when we watch more of these homes go up, Jory. I can't help but just be impressed with the structure protection as you've been giving us this amazing aerial view. And so many of our viewers who have evacuated have, I'm sure, been looking for their homes in these shots. You see each of these fire crews and the fire engines around. And then on the hillsides that are so rugged, you see those hand crews and the labor they have to do when it comes to digging those lines. And you say there's another pass that's happening now?
I'm sorry, Brandy. We just had a little radio traffic. The hand crews on the ground there continue to work on this home on Tiger Tail. Obviously, it appears to be a total loss. We can see through the roof into the home. But they don't want to see what happened just about a half an hour ago when the winds picked back up and they picked the fire back up. This was basically out about an hour ago, and it was just smoldering, and the winds picked it up and was able to fan the flames, and it just kind of became involved once again. And so it looks pretty good on the ground as they continue this attack. You can see a really strong hose line coming from the side of this and another hose line in the back of the home. So they're attacking it from 2 directions, and I mean, it's a real shame. It's sad to see this home go up, but look at how close it is. There's not a whole lot of space between these homes, and so the fact they were able to save the other homes, that's one of the reasons why they continue to douse this down, is to save this entire neighborhood.
Yeah, it's wonderful to live on the hills because of the beautiful views, but the downfall is these homes are built so close to each other.
No, he's still going.
And the rugged terrain and the amount of fuel that is there as well. Jory, as you continue to look for this potential drop. Can you give us a larger shot of the area as a whole? Brandy and I were watching you, and look at the tremendous expanse of homes that are out there that are under threat from this fire. So many more than you would think that are all stuck up there so close together in the hills.
Yeah, and it's pretty shocking once the smoke cleared, and to be able to see just how many homes are here and have been put at risk. We'll show you that this is the northern end. We're over by Mountain Gate Country Club. That's the golf course to the top left, right along the 405, which, by the way, is still shut down on southbound traffic. Kyle, let's travel just south down to the right along the 405, and we'll show you the burn area. There's not a whole lot of homes in here, and this was just wilderness. This was nothing but fuel, and this morning when it ignited around 1:30 in the morning, it just lit up and just went, and there was nothing to stop it, and burned up these homes. It's fortunate where it started, because there aren't a whole lot of structures in this area. If it had started, say, when we were looking over towards Tiger Tail, this is Mount St. Mary's, we would be talking about a much different story, just because there's so many homes, they're so packed in. And if you've ever tried to get into one of these roadways up in the hills, either on either side, the Bel Air side or on the Brentwood side, even for a car, it's difficult to make your way through these tight little roads. If there are trash cans out, if there are cars parked, it's hard to make it through just with a small car. You imagine trying to get fire equipment up there, and these engines, which you can see on the right side of your screen, it's tough to get them. They have to lay their hose lines. If they find a hydrant and they're able to run a hose line, that goes down the middle of the street as well. And so it's difficult to get equipment through this area. It's so tightly compacted, and there are so many homes just surrounded by hillsides with nothing but fuel to burn. You remember in the Skirball fire, Waze was directing people off the freeways through neighborhoods to get around it, and it completely locked things up because roads here are so tight and so difficult and narrow to get through. Other than just a handful of homes, I think, once again, it's tough to see anybody lose their property and lose their home. But relatively speaking, it's amazing that so few went up, given how many there are. We're talking about maybe 7. It could be more once things clear. But just a great credit, once again, to the firefighters on the ground, in the air. I know Rob Hayes was talking earlier about brush clearance and how important that can be. And, I don't know if we could have talked about fewer homes burning had that been taken care of earlier. It certainly is a problem, and it's just a good lesson for all you folks out there who might have some brush, some wildland on your property. It's a really smart idea to clear it when you can. It could wind up saving your home.
And also evacuate when you're ordered to, because Jory, you talk about these engines trying to make their way up. They can't if people are trying to get in the way. As you go back over to Mount St. Mary's right now and you pan over, what's impressive is not only were they allowed to save the school, but also when we were talking this morning to students at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. live, they were walking with pillows and bags in their hands as we now watch for a potential drop right now from this fixed-wing aircraft, the DC-10, it appears. These poor students, some of them were getting rides in ambulances down. Imagine at 3 a.m. that being surrounded by flames and then being terrified, trying to escape, just walking down the roads there as they were burning.
Yeah, that's one of the things about being in, let's continue on that DC-10 if we can. Is he going to make another pass? Okay, sorry, he's going to circle back around again. We can go back, Kyle, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you've ever been out covering a fire at night, then you know how scary it can be. It just lights up the entire night sky, and it doesn't matter if it might be a half a mile away. It looks like it's encroaching upon your house, and in a situation like this where it actually is upon you, it's terrifying. And with that much fuel, we talked earlier, the height of the flame goes well above houses. And if you're on campus and you see you have a multi-story building, it can reach the top of a building. I mean, these flames here on the golf course right now, they're reaching the top of a tree, and there's not much there to burn. And so when you're there in person, especially in one of those situations where it's coming uphill at you, and it has so much power, and the force of it is burning uphill, it forces that smoke and the flame to go even higher above you. It's terrifying. I mean, it really looks like the world is coming to an end when you're in that situation. And so, it's people grab their things and go in a situation where you should just go. Don't worry about your things. We hear firefighters tell us all the time, don't worry about your property. If your life is at risk, it's time to just go. Those are just things. You and your family are what's most important. And so, during the daytime, when you talk about smoke, and it gets really thick, and that becomes terrifying. At night, it's really the fire and just that orange glow that just so ominous and so scary. And so you can understand why those students were packing up in a panic, because it's terrifying, and they're just running in a terror to get out.
Right. The mayor, about 7:30 this morning, gave us an update on the situation, and he reminded folks right out of the gates that when told to evacuate, please evacuate. It's a must-do, and it's only for your own safety, and also it helps firefighters as you get out of the way so they can get in there and save your house. So that's something to always keep in mind. And by the way, we are anticipating a new update from fire officials and perhaps the mayor at noon today. That's what we're hoping, at least, to get an update, and hopefully a positive update on how this firefight is going. But keep in mind, if you're just joining us, that this is the beginning of what could be a very difficult week here in Southern California. This fire broke out at 1:30 this morning.
The goalposts affecting Northern Ireland this way.
Fulfill.
The question is that there shall be an early parliamentary general election. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. No. Aye. Division! Clear the lobby.
Last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. Whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. And he had dragged 3 of his young children with him. They were led to certain death. He reached the end of the tunnel as our dogs chased him down. He ignited his vest, killing himself and the 3 children.
Ungewöhnlich am Sonntag. Die morgendlichen Talkshows ändern ihr Programm. Präsident Trump hat ein Statement angekündigt. Er bestätigt, was seit dem Abend als Gerücht die Runde gemacht hatte. Vergangene Nacht haben die USA den schlimmsten Terroristenführer der Welt so bestraft, wie er es verdient. Al-Baghdadi ist tot.
Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
US-Spezialkräfte hatten sich dem Versteck al-Baghdadis im Nordwesten Syriens genähert. In einem Tunnel hätte der sich dann mit einer Sprengstoffweste in die Luft gesprengt. DNA-Proben belegten, er ist es. Trump selber verfolgte den Schlag gegen al-Baghdadi im Weißen Haus. Am Morgen Lob für die Operation. Al-Baghdadi war böse und gewalttätig. Er starb nun auf gewalttätige Weise, wie ein Feigling, auf der Flucht und weinend. Dieser Überraschungsangriff lief tadellos. Al-Baghdadi, zuerst hatte er Al-Qaida im Irak übernommen, dann den sogenannten IS begründet. Eine Schreckensherrschaft über weite Teile Iraks und Syriens, die mit Gräueltaten und blutigen Anschlägen die Weltgemeinschaft gegen sich aufbrachte. Der Schlag in der Nacht, auch das endgültige Ende des IS? Es ist hart, eine Ideologie zu zerschlagen. Wir müssen also in Hab-Acht-Stellung bleiben, um solche Ziele zu zerstören, wenn sie wieder aufkommen. Trump feiert sich für diesen Schlag, betont allerdings, es bleibt beim Abzug der USA aus Syrien. Dafür hatte er viel Kritik einstecken müssen.
Wir fragen noch mal nach bei Emma Thewissen in Washington. Der IS verliert seinen Führer. Was bedeutet das jetzt für diese Terrormiliz?
Also es ist ohne Zweifel ein ganz wichtiger militärischer und auch politischer Erfolg für die Trump-Administration. Aber Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi hat in den letzten 1-2 Jahren eigentlich keine.
Bölgeden dikkat çeken bir haber Amerika kaynaklı olarak konuşulmakta şu dakikalarda, şu saatlerde. O da DAEŞ'in lideri Ebu Bekir el-Bağdadi'nin öldürüldüğü iddiası. Amerika tarafından bu böyle bir iddia ve bir operasyonun yapıldığı bilgisi var. Newsweek dergisi Amerikan Savunma Bakanlığı yetkililerine dayandırdı bu haberi. Bir operasyon düzenlendiğini ve bu operasyonda da Bağdadi'nin öldürüldüğünü iddia etti. Sosyal medyada da bazı görüntüler paylaşıldı. Ekrana getirdiğimiz görüntüler Amerikan medyası tarafından operasyon anı ve sonrası şeklinde yayınlandı. Gece çekilmiş görüntülerde operasyon sırasında yaşanan patlamaları, makine tüfek seslerini ve helikopter seslerini duyabiliyoruz. Gündüz saatlerinde çekilmiş bir başka görüntüde de operasyon yapılan bölge olduğu iddiasıyla yine Amerikan medyasında yayınlandı bu görüntüler. Ayrıca Reuters haber ajansına da Amerikalı bir yetkili bilgi verdi. Buna göre Amerikan kuvvetleri Ebu Bekir el-Bağdadi'ye yönelik bir operasyon yaptı. Fakat operasyonun yeri ve detayları açıklanmadı. Vurguladığımız gibi Newsweek dergisi internet sitesinde konuşan Savunma Bakanlığı yetkilisi de Amerikan helikopterlerinin İdlib'in kuzeydoğusunda uçtuğunu, özel bir operasyon yaptığını söyledi. Pentagon'un öldürülen kişinin çok yüksek ihtimalle Bağdadi olduğunu ancak bunun henüz doğrulanmadığını Beyaz Saray'a ilettiğini kaydetti.
Order! Order!
The ayes to the right, 299. The noes to the left, 70.
The ayes to the right, 299. To the noes to the left, 70. So the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it, but the motion has not obtained the majority required under the Fixed Term Parliaments Act 2011, and because the I'm coming to the right, honourable gentleman, because the majority required has not been reached, the noes have it. Point of order, the Prime Minister.
The Leader of the Opposition, literally and figuratively, has run away from the judgment of the people for the third time, Mr. Speaker. He's turned down our offer to get Brexit done, in spite of the fact that he and every member of his party stood on a promise to deliver Brexit in this Parliament. And I think, frankly, that the electorate will find his behaviour utterly bewildering. But as I said when moving the motion, we will not allow this paralysis to continue, and one way or another we must proceed straight to an election. So later on this evening, the government will give notice of presentation for a short bill for an election on the 12th of December so that we can finally get Brexit done. And there is no support in the House, as we've heard earlier on from the benches opposite, for the WAB to proceed. But, Mr. Speaker, this House cannot any longer keep this country hostage. Millions of families and businesses cannot plan for the future, and I don't believe that this paralysis and this stagnation should be allowed to continue. Now that no deal is off the table, we have a great new deal. We have a great new deal. And it's time for the voters to have a chance to pronounce on that deal and to replace this dysfunctional Parliament with a new Parliament that can get Brexit done so the country can move on.
Thank you. Point of order, Mr. Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm most grateful. It is clear that there is a desire on the opposition benches to bring forward a bill that can give us an election. But, Mr. Speaker, we don't trust this Prime Minister. And we don't trust this Prime Minister for good reason. So the Prime Minister, if he is going to bring forward a bill, must give an absolute cast-iron assurance that up until the passage of that bill and the rising of Parliament, that there will be no attempt to bring forward the withdrawal agreement bill. And of course the SNP will do its job and scrutinise any bill that comes forward. But it's absolutely demonstrably the case that we want an election. We want the people of Scotland to be given the opportunity to have their say. And we will fight that election. We will fight that election, Mr. Speaker, on the right of the Scottish people to determine their own future.
Hear, hear.
And that we will not, under any circumstances, consent to being taken out of the European Union against our will. And that election campaign will make it clear that the right to determine our future will be in the hands of the Scottish people.
Thank you. Point of order, the Father of the House, Mr. Kenneth Clark.
Mr. Speaker, we've just had an hour and a half of a slightly out-of-control student union debate, and it sounds as though we might have a rather similar farcical performance tomorrow. Is there any chance, Mr. Speaker, of you, as the Chair of the House, to persuade the usual channels to resume their meetings and produce a sensible timetable for the bill we have before us, so that this House can resume discussion of these serious matters in a grown-up fashion and come to a resolution on the deal, which personally, I repeat, I will vote for if it reaches third reading, as I think it will, and it could well be that we could get back to the orderly government, which I think the general public are dearly wishing we would rapidly do.
Careful note of what the Father of the House has said, and I'm certainly open to any such discussions, but it does require willing participants, and it remains to be seen with the passage of time whether that be so. But I think everybody will be attentive on this occasion, as on every other, to what, on the basis of 49 years' experience in the House, the Father of the House has had to say to us. A point of order, Mr. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I apologise to you and to the Prime Minister for not being here at the point when he raised his point of order. I was detained outside the chamber. I'm now back here. I understand a bill will be tabled tomorrow. We will obviously look and scrutinise that bill, and we look forward to a clear, definitive decision that no deal is absolutely off the table, and there is no danger of this Prime Minister not sticking to his word because he has some form on these matters and taking this country out of the EU without any deal whatsoever, knowing the damage it will do to jobs and industries all across this country.
That point stands in its own right. A point of order, I think, on a completely unrelated matter. Point of order, Mr. Stephen Doughty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, I believe in correcting things when I get things wrong, and I want to apologise to the Honourable Member for East Yorkshire, a very honourable gentleman, for incorrectly referencing his seat in my point of order earlier on to the Prime Minister. I understand he has, in fact, been re-adopted by his association, and I want to apologise to him for mistaking his seat for another, and for that I truly apologise to him.
Typically gracious of the honourable gentleman, and I have a sense that it will be accepted readily. But let's hear a response in the form of a point of order from Sir Gregory Knight.
That point of order, Mr. Speaker, I accept the very gracious comments just made.
I'm greatly obliged, as the honourable gentleman will be, to the right honourable gentleman. Order. If there are no further points of order, the clerk will now proceed to read the orders of the day.
Environment Bill, second reading.
Now, order. Order. Before I invite, we sit here, the Minister, no mere Minister, the Secretary of State.
To find a durable, just and comprehensive resolution to the Palestinian question, to achieve stability and security in the whole region. Mr. President, the brotherly Syrian people still seeks to achieve security and peace and a dignified life through a political solution that responds to its aspirations based on the Geneva Communique and Security Council Resolution 2254 in a way that preserves the unity and territorial integrity, independence and sovereignty of Syria. We look forward to the launch of the Constitutional Committee, and we have high hopes in this regard. We will continue to support efforts and remove all obstacles to achieving peace and to implementing a political solution based on the UN terms of reference. In Libya, the military operations launched by militias against Tripoli that targets the legitimate government that is internationally recognized threatens the unity and the stability of Libya. We call upon all parties to bear responsibilities and to respect the will of the Libyan people in achieving a peaceful solution. We warn that interference in the Libyan issue would further complicate the crisis and will prevent us from reaching national consensus and contravene Security Council resolutions. We support fully the efforts of Ghassan Salama, Special Representative of the Secretary General. As for Yemen, we stress once again that ending the conflict would require the engagement by all parties in a true dialogue to achieve a political solution and national reconciliation based on Resolution 2216 to uphold the unity of Yemen and to achieve security and stability in Yemen. We express our support to the Special Envoy of the Secretary General, and we stress the importance of responding to the basic needs of the Yemeni people and facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid. Mr. President, the serious situation in the Middle East and the multitude of crises that we have there makes the respect of international law and international humanitarian law and international human rights law something that is not even up for debate, not subject for compromise or prevarication. This is why the Security Council must stop all violations, must diffuse tensions, as those tensions distracted the United Nations from fulfilling its main role. This is why refraining from instigating crises, refraining from leveling accusations that are illegitimate would contribute to enhancing the UN's ability and the Security Council's ability.
And completely destroy the character of the village of Sinister. Does she agree this is not acceptable in any community?
I agree that it is vital that we protect our greenbelt, that all greenbelt rules are abided by, and this government is absolutely determined to defend the greenbelt as part of our environmental framework. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
I'm very grateful to my right honourable friend. This is a very welcome bill, and it builds upon much good work that the government's already done. Will she recognise, though, that in suburban parts of London, like hers and mine, there remains a concern about particulate pollution, and will she look, as the bill makes progress, to see what more we can do to strengthen the fight against particulate pollution in particular, for example, by seeking to strengthen our commitment to joining the WHO guidelines on particulate pollution by 2030?
Well, he will be aware that Clause 2 sets out the ambition to set a legally binding target on fine particulate pollution, responding to exactly the sort of concerns of my right honourable friend and his constituents, and indeed mine in Chipping Barnet. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
Very, very grateful to my right honourable friend. Planting more trees would make a great contribution to a more beautiful environment and have other good consequences. Can she say a little about how this can be done, and can some of them come to Wokingham, please?
Well, the government has been involved in planting about 15 million trees, but we're determined to ensure that we expand that programme because, of course, trees are crucial storage mechanisms for carbon, and we'll never get to net zero unless we plant a lot more. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
My constituents who, like me, care about nature are absolutely delighted with this bill, and I'm thrilled to be able to support it, particularly for rural communities who are blighted by fly tipping. But will she just watch out for the water abstraction element? It seems uncharacteristically mean.
I'm grateful to the honourable member for his praise for the determination expressed in the bill to protect nature and reverse the decline in biodiversity, and we will listen carefully to his concerns and his constituents' concerns about water abstraction to make sure that the bill provisions are implemented in a
we face and is
fight for life and property.
This morning, a race to escape the inferno. Nearly 200,000 people ordered to evacuate as the Kincaid fire doubles in size. Dramatic new video providing an up-close look at the desperate battle facing these firefighters.
Kincaid fire remains the most stubborn challenge that we face and is immediately of top priority and focus. Over 3,000 individuals are working just on the Kincaid fire.
Massive blazes and roaring flames engulfing homes. These blacked out streets lined by the glowing embers of wilting, fiery structures. Waves of smoke hindering vision, fire trucks lining the street, the front lawns of these deserted homes, a smattering of fiery patches and ash. Firefighters seen here hosing down the remaining flames in this backyard, attempting to salvage what's left. Utilizing whatever resources they can, filling their hoses with water from this pool in a backyard as they attempt to extinguish this burning house in front of them. Multiple hoses at work as the house continues to burn down. This vineyard in wine country destroyed. Towns evacuated as firefighters guard abandoned areas in distress.
Trees were falling on our street, trees down on our street, one on either end. Now cleared up, but we barely got out.
Those unprecedented winds pushing the fire southwest toward more heavily populated areas. Firefighters from around the state doing whatever they can to save the town of Windsor. Heroic action saving this community from destruction as the fire rages on.
Those historic and damaging winds that have been the driving force for this fire are expected to lessen here this morning. It's not windy here right now, but just a brief respite for the area later this week. More wind warnings will be in effect, not just for Northern California, but Southern California as well. Much of the state likely in more red flag warnings, George.
Boy, so much danger for that whole state. Okay, Will, thanks very much. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel.
Kann man mich jetzt hören? Hallo? Kann man mich jetzt hören? Hallo? Super, super, das ist schon mal sehr gut. So, machen wir hier aus. So. Erstmal guten Abend. Hallo an die, die mir zugehört haben und auch gefolgt haben. Danke dafür. Und auch für die Abonnenten, die jetzt gerade eben neu gekommen sind. Hallo, erstmal vielen Dank dafür. Ich möchte nur kurz fassen und noch ein paar wichtige Worte an eine Person wenden, die meint, Leute vorzuschreiben, was sie machen sollen und was nicht. Ich erkläre es noch einmal, damit es jeder in seinem Schädel mal reinkommt. Ich habe niemanden beurteilt, ich habe niemanden in den Dreck geworfen, ich habe niemanden irgendwas vorgeworfen. Wenn einer so dermaßen getriggert auf so ein Thema abgeht, aggressiv reagiert, hochemotional abgeht, wie eine Rakete, wie ein Vulkan und das nicht mal aus irgendeinem Grund abgeht und dann sehr aggressiv darauf reagiert, möchte ich darauf wirklich fragen, was in dieser Person gerade vor sich geht. Ich agiere spontan, vernünftig und sachlich wie möglich darauf zu reagieren, mit diesen Leuten zu reden. Und ich habe nicht vorgehabt, irgendwas aufzuklären oder zu entlarven. Ich wollte nur fragen, was stimmt und was stimmt nicht. Nur eine spontane Reaktion. Ich gehe nicht nach buddhistischen Glauben hin, wie jeder andere auch, wie diese Person das auch meint, nach Bauchgefühl zu reagieren. Wenn jeder nach seinem Bauchgefühl reagieren würde, würde sich jeder gegenseitig an die Köpfe gehen und würde gegenseitig die Köpfe abschneiden. Mit Logik und mit Köpfchen muss man die Sachen umgehen. Mit vernünftigen Sachverhalten, dass man wenigstens mal überlegt und nochmal reflektiert, wie könnte die Person denn darauf reagieren oder was könnte vielleicht passieren, dass man diese Szenarien erstmal in den Kopf durchgeht und dann nicht mit Geist oder mit Licht oder mit Stimme angeht. Das ist jedem seine Sache, aber ich habe nicht vorgehabt, Leute blöd so anzustellen oder zu diffamieren oder zu beleidigen. Ich werde dieses Thema nicht ansprechen, aber dieses Thema wird immer von anderen oder von jemand anderem dann weiter verwendet werden. Es wird nicht stillgeschwiegen. Wir leben hier in einer Pressefreiheit und ich will meine Meinung auch frei äußern. Und ich lasse mich nicht von niemandem vorschreiben, wie ich meine Worte oder mit wem, was ich sagen darf und was nicht. Von niemandem. Damit bleibt es auch. Und das sollte der ein oder andere sich dann vor die Köpfe vorschreiben. Wenn es Domains gibt oder anderes ist schön. Aber nicht hier mit so einem Ton und mit so einer Rage. Das verlange ich von den ein oder anderen mehr Rücksicht und mehr Respekt. Und du Hase solltest lieber deinen Mund halten. Und wenn du mit mir wirklich anlegen willst, dann können wir uns gerne verabreden. Wie jeder vernünftige Mann das auch klären kann. Aber wage es ja nicht, mit mir in so einem Ton zu reden, Junge. Wage es ja nicht. Ich hoffe, es ist dann geklärt. Ich werde dieses Thema nicht öffnen, aber wenn einer so drauf auf dieses Thema empfindlich und aggressiv reagiert, dann muss doch wohl sowas faul sein, oder? Sorry. Alter, ey, ich habe nur ein Wort darüber geredet, nur über mit Ente darüber gesprochen und schon wird daraus Riesenbohai gemacht. Dann werde ich nicht darüber reden, ist in Ordnung, aber ich lasse mir das nicht so gefallen. Nicht in diesem Tonart. Wie gesagt, das werden andere kommen, die sich mit dieser Scheiße beschäftigen werden. Aber keine Angst, das wird nicht von mir kommen. Ihr habt euch selbst entlarvt. Ich habe nichts gemacht. Ihr habt euch mit eurem Verhalten, mit eurer Mimik, mit eurer Art, wie ihr das besprochen habt, selbst entlarvt. Ich habe nichts gemacht. Fragekatalog. Was soll denn der Spruch denn heißen? Fragekatalog. Allein diese Art und Weise macht das schon verdächtig. Unfassbar, ey, dass ich nicht mal meine freie Meinung äußern kann. Alter Schwede, ey. Wie gesagt, ich werde dieses Thema nicht öffnen, aber wenn von mir aus labern, was ihr wollt. Idioten, Alter, ey. Wünsche euch einen schönen Tag, könnt von mir aus über den Rest, ich werde meine Themen weiterhin besprechen. Ich werde dann am Mittwoch dann meinen politischen Lauf weiterhin führen, aber wie gesagt, ich werde nicht über dieses Thema reden. Ist schon gut. Und übrigens, ich habe diesen Livestream und diese Domains habe ich auch gesehen mit Twix. Das könnte hinhauen. Das habe ich gesehen. Aber okay, aber da muss man nicht aggressiv darauf reagieren und auch nicht emotional abgehen wie eine Rakete. Das hätte man auch vernünftig und auch auf sachlicher Ebene zeigen können und nicht direkt abgehen wie eine Rakete. Einfach zeigen, so Burak, ne, da hast du deine Antwort, fertig. Ich werde jetzt nicht dieses Thema nochmal besprechen, keine Angst, keine Angst. Ich werde normal meinen Mittwoch werde ich dann normal meinen politischen Lauf weiterhin machen, aber ich werde es lassen mir nicht von niemandem vorschreiben. Okay. So, ich wünsche euch einen schönen Abend. Und Hase, nicht noch einmal, Junge. Mach das noch einmal. Nicht noch einmal.